20 monthly meeting. I'd like to welcome Mr. Higgins from CBC Television. Welcome to Summerside. And Billy McKay from the Journal Pioneer. And say hello to our viewing audience on YouTube around the world and wherever. And we'd like to welcome members in the audience. We have a presentation to be made, I believe, from Mr. Key and Mr. McIvor. So we'll continue on. We have our new CEO with us tonight, Mr. Philpott. Again, congratulations and welcome. And our Acting Director of Finance, Kristen Dunsford. And we have Brian Harlick here from Human Resources running the controls. So, the meeting has been called to order. Is there an approval of the agenda? Moved by Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor McDougall. All in favour say aye. Contrary nay. Carried. Any conflicts of interest? I do not see any. Is there a motion for the approval of the monthly council meeting minutes of December 16, 2000? It says 2020, but I think it's 19. December 16, 19. Moved by Councillor Snow and seconded by Councillor Drawn. All in favour? Contrary nay. Carried. Correspondence, not as much correspondence in January other than some invitations to a number of meetings and those kinds of things. December was very busy, but if there's anything else comes in before the end of the month, we can do it in the February meeting. So we'll continue on with the agenda. Human Resources, Legal Affairs, Culture Summerside, and Policy Review and Bylaw Review Committee. Councillor Carrie Adams, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We'll start off with HR and Legal Affairs Monthly Report. The Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, as well as department subcommittees, continue to meet on a regular monthly basis. We are pleased to announce that Kenny Blanchard and Clay Mose have been promoted to the rank of Deputy Chief within our fire service. As well, we welcome Constable Jesse McCabe and Constable Colby Landrigan to our police services as part-time members. We currently have a competition open for the position of Recreation Coordinator with Community Services. And HR staff have been busy with budget preparations and planning health and wellness initiatives for the 2020-2021 year. That's everything for HR and legal. If there's no questions, I'll move right into Culture Summerside. Always sounds like a lot, but the reports are pretty brief. So Culture Summerside's monthly report. The following report captures some highlights of Culture Summerside activity from mid-December to mid-January time period. Culture Summerside's annual Christmas program took place through the month of December. For the first time in its 19-year history, the event was open up to the general public and offered with evening hours. The 2019 format also offered an expanded exploration of the Wyatt Historic House Museum and incorporated piano playing, refreshments, singing, interpretation, and storytelling. Early housekeeping staff of Wanda Wyatt's were part of the program, offering a glimpse into the days of working in the home. Positive feedback from the community was plentiful. It was clear that our citizens want to spend more time in the museum during the holidays and participate in Christmas at the museum. Community members considered the event a gift to the community. The school component was also well received. Each student, teacher, and chaperone participated by they walked away with a new perspective of the Wyatt Museum. The program topics change each year and are written to correlate with curriculum and connect to the holidays. Among other objectives, this event was focused on creating greater accessibility to our museums and cultural sites. I know our 10-year-old son went, and trying to get them engaged at that age can be fun at the best of times, and there was no complaints. So I told Lori, job well done on that one. Deadlines are being met in the area of grant writing, proposals, and reports are being submitted to several government organizations. And that's the monthly report for Culture Summerside.
Any questions for the chair? If not, we can continue on.
Continue on. Okay, did you want, just CAO, did you want me to do this part guys? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Could I just ask one question on
Sure.
the Culture Summerside? I know it's early, it's only January, but as they start to arrange or think about the Lobster Carnival, ask your committee and to keep council informed of what's planned, sort of thing.
For sure,
Those kinds of things.
Yes. And maybe we could do like a, get them in and just to sit a brief update as the months go on, just so we'll know where they're at. And the monthly report for Bylaw Policy and Review Committee. In November, Council passed second readings for amendments to several bylaws in order to bring them into compliance with the new Municipal Government Act. The current catalog of bylaws is now up to date in terms of consistency in formatting, references, and numbering for retrieval purposes. This work is primarily legislative housekeeping, which means that all bylaws remain subject to council review and revision, or as the need arises for improving their content, language, and application. New bylaws mandated by the province. Previous reports have indicated that the city has been waiting to receive models of 2 new bylaws mandated by the new act. The 2 required bylaws are the Access to Information Bylaw and the Retention of Records Bylaw. Proposed versions of these bylaws have been drafted for inclusion in the City of Summerside's bylaw catalog. And the city's external legal counsel will be here tonight to answer any questions on the proposed content. I'll just finish up quickly and then we'll get you guys to come on up. The deadline for passage of these new bylaws is February 28th, 2020. First reading should take place at the January meeting of council and second reading in February to meet the deadline. I'll just quickly do the taxi bylaw and then we'll go back to the, okay. Council has directed Bylaw Policy Review Committee to review the current taxi bylaw and to bring recommended changes back to council. This council direction is a response to hearing a growing number of concerns registered by taxi operators, taxi rides, and the public in general. It has been suggested that taxi bylaw is outdated, irrelevant in some respects, and difficult to enforce. This review process is underway and will include outreach to local stakeholders before the revised bylaw comes back to council. So when a meeting is going to be held, it will involve a representative from each taxi operation, okay? So if anybody has any questions on that, if not, we'll Derek or Ian or CAO.
Councillor Carey, on the taxi bylaw, do you have any idea when you may be having that meeting?
No, because right now we're working on just some redoing. Right now the policy seems to, there's too many enforcements in it, and so we have to look at what we can take out and what needs to be left in. And after we have a version of that, then we'll sit down with each stakeholder from each company and go through it with them. So no meetings are being held like one-on-one with different,
without everybody being known.
Yeah, we're going to have them all together at the same time.
Okay, because I've I've received a few phone calls, and so I just wanted to have some answers for them, and so, okay, thank you, Councillor.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Ian and Rob.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Adams, or Madam Chair. So, as Madam Chair referred to in her report, there's a couple of draft versions of new bylaws that have been put together by our external legal counsel. And to my right is Ian McCarville from our lawyers, Key Murray Law, who most of you would have known from previous appearances at this forum to talk about other proposed bylaws and other bylaws that have since come into effect. So Ian is certainly here to walk you through the content of these bylaws, not in any appreciable sort of detail, but just to give you a flavor for what's being proposed. And certainly he's available to answer any questions that you might have related to them. So I'll turn it over to Ian.
Okay. Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Ian McCarville. I'm an articled clerk with Key Murray Law in Summerside, accompanied tonight by my principal, Derek D. Key, QC, to present the Access to Information Bylaw as well as the Records Retention Bylaw. It's my understanding that copies of those bylaws have been provided to members of council, and we also have some copies here printed out for members of the public should they wish to review them at this time. So I guess I'll begin by discussing briefly the Access to Information bylaw. This is a significant shift, I think it's fair to say, in municipal governance in Prince Edward Island. The requirements of kind of a freedom of information requirement being on council and the city generally. The requirements in the bylaw are broad. The definition of records means essentially any information, whether electronic or handwritten or anything of that nature. And there's a presumption that members of the public have access to those records, subject to certain exceptions that would be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So the bylaw is drafted based on regulations that were published by the province. And I can say that the regulations are very prescriptive in nature, in the sense that the text of the regulations say the bylaw shall provide, and then it goes on. So there's not a lot of discretion, honestly, in terms of what the text of the bylaw can say. The regulations cover the field in essence in terms of the requirements. One of the important tasks, I guess, for the municipality, and I understand this has already taken place, is appointing a coordinator. My understanding is that it's Lisa in the mayor's office is the FOIP coordinator for the city, and so her task will be kind of responding to these requests and following the process set out in the bylaw. There are also sections in there for individuals if they notice that some of their information is incorrect in a record, that they can seek to correct it, and there's also a process in there for kind of adjudicating concerns as they arise.
Could I just get some clarification? You had mentioned about contacting the mayor's office assistant. Would that be done versus our in-house lawyer, Gordon McFarlane?
Lisa has set up as the first point of contact with the organization, Your Worship. So any requests that come forward, whether it be from the media or members of the general public, would usually come in through her first. And then she would consult with myself and our in-house legal counsel as to who should be the recipient and who would deal with the request.
Thank you.
So my understanding is that the bylaw is due for first reading tonight. Under the Municipal Governments Act, first reading can consist of the name of the bylaw and a short description. Then I would propose to do that now. And then if any questions arise, please feel free to jump in. So bylaw number CS-29, the Access to Information and Protection of Personal Information bylaw. And a description, a bylaw to provide for public access to certain information in the custody or control of the City of Summerside and to protect personal information pursuant to sections 147 and 148 of the Municipal Government Act. Subject to any questions, I could discuss the records retention bylaw.
At what point do you want to move the resolution, or is it still for discussion prior to that? Okay.
Actually, I'm wondering if it's okay with council, if Ian wants to offer any comments to mayor and council about certain things that in your roles as elected officials that you may want to be cognizant of under this proposed bylaw. Ian, if you have any comments to offer,
Sure.
Just some general pointers just to keep in mind. I mean, at some point it would be our desire to provide some more in-depth training for both members of council and senior leadership around the requirements of the bylaw. But for now, just if you have, I guess, a general flavor for what's expected, that might be helpful. Is that okay?
And this is just the first reading anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I guess a while back in August, I had prepared some notes on this, which I had sent through to Bob Ashley, and I've got it before me now. But I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that under this legislation, records in the care and control of a public body, which would include emails and things like that that councillors would use in their when conducting city business, they are presumptively accessible to members of the public. Now, there are obvious exceptions to that that are detailed in the legislation, and that would include things like ongoing negotiations, if it could be damaging to economic interests of the city on an ongoing basis. But once things like that, contracts and things like that are concluded, then as time goes on, those records will become accessible to the public when they're no longer really at issue. So it's just good to keep in mind for members of council that their communications and information contained in records are matters of public record. That these communications could very easily get swept up and potentially disclosed in a FOIP request. And that these emails could very easily someday end up on a judge's desk or on the front page of the newspaper. And so it is important to keep those things in mind. It's also important that I mention that it is an offense under the legislation to alter, falsify, or conceal records for the purpose of evading a FOIP request, as it is an offense to destroy records for the purpose of evading a FOIP request. And those offenses carry a penalty of a fine of up to $10,000. So it's clear that the province is taking this as a very serious matter. I guess I could also mention that there's a lot of obligations on staff in terms of searching, collecting, compiling, reviewing, and disclosing this information. And to my knowledge, there has been no increased funding coming from the province as a way to help cover some of these costs. One of my professors at UNB is the city solicitor for the city of St. John in New Brunswick, and they've been subject to this type of legislation for a number of years. He indicated that their municipality purchased a software. It's called ATIP Express, and it's specifically designed to help public bodies deal with these types of requests. He indicated it was expensive to purchase, in the realm of $20,000, but ultimately worth it, as the number of these requests seems to increase rather than decrease in time. It's called ATIP, A-T-I-P Express, but not E-Express, just Express.
These bylaws would be similar to other cities or provinces. They're in accordance with their municipal acts, provincial acts.
Certainly similar, Your Worship, yes, and it's my understanding the province has provided model bylaws as well. As I indicated earlier, the text of the regulations being such as it is, it's almost a certainty that there will be continuity across Prince Edward Island's municipalities, especially the Big Four.
Is there a cost to the person putting through the FOIP request? Is that?
Yeah, so one of the pieces that where there is actually some discretion under the regulations relates to fees that are chargeable. So the big cap on fees is that it can't be any more than the actual cost to the city of locating, retrieving, looking after the records, disclosing. So you will notice in the schedule to the bylaw we've kind of set out a fee structure that under the text of the bylaw can be changed by simple resolution of council. But the limiting factor is that it can't be more than the actual cost. And so when someone makes a request, one of the first things that Lisa would do would be to estimate this is what the cost will be, and an applicant is required to pay 50% of that up front and pay the balance before they receive the records.
Thank you. Do you have a question, Councillor Adams? You still chair? You're still chair. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I guess that's kind of where I'm at for now in terms of my submissions on this bylaw, but again, open to receiving any questions.
Councillor McFeely.
I guess a question for CAO or Acting Director of Finance. So do we understand the full budget implications? And we know we're not getting any more money from the province to administer the bylaw, but
I think to be upfront with you, Councillor, I think we're still working through some of the budgetary implications, simply because, well, as you mentioned, there's no funding coming from the province to support the administrative, I guess, burden that comes with implementing this bylaw. But we've only received, I say only, we've only received 1 or 2 requests for information, and it's really hard where we don't have any trending information really to support like what a, sorry, go ahead.
if I understand it correctly, there's 2 parts to it. There's the retrieving of the information, which is cost recovery, but there's developing of the filing systems and all those kinds of things.
Records management.
The record management piece that is very costly.
Yeah.
That we can't recover the costs on from the requests. So I think we need to get a better understanding, I think, of what the implication is for us.
Councillor McFeely, I know the FPIM, in discussions with the province when this was put in place, we had requested some funding, and we're still working on that. So.
And I was just wondering, in some of the documentation that we received prior to the meeting, I believe there was a comment as well, if somebody through FOIP is requesting information, if there's any legal information that they require, that would be at their expense, not the city's. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding, yeah. If someone was seeking legal advice, you mean, or?
I'm thinking just the part that I read was that if it involved the release of any legal information or whatnot, if they requested it, it wouldn't be the city asking for it. It would be the person that's making the application. So it would be at their cost, not the city's.
That makes sense to me. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
If you could point me to the provision that you were looking at.
I'll try and find it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe this could be a question probably for CAO Rob. Since the dropping, I guess, of the Municipal Government Act, there's been a kind of more access to information pieces in the spotlight, and I guess just in the interest of for the public, for the interest of openness, what would a typical, and you can keep this very brief, but a typical request for information, like what would that entail? Obviously, they're going to call City Hall and they're interested in information A, information B. Just what would their timeline be, and what's the whole process, I guess, after that initial phone call? What kind of takes place, and how long it could take for someone to get the information that they're looking for?
I guess in terms of the actual time that it would take, Councillor, it would really depend on the nature of the information that's being requested. Having said that, where we are still working through the process of having this bylaw put together, it would be our commitment to try to respond to the respondent as quickly as possible, to give them a sense as to how long it would take to compile the information, what would be the approximate cost to be associated with that. And depending on the nature of the request, it could be concentrated to one particular department, or it might involve a whole host of city departments in terms of responding to the request. I mean, as an example, and I can't say who or what, but we had a request for information about a particular contract that the city had entered into over the past year, and it involved us having to bring together a number of city departments to consult on a proposed response that was deemed to be transparent and met the needs of the person who was making the request. So I guess really what we're looking at is to try to be as prompt as we can in responding to the person making the request, and to give him or her or them a sense as to how much it would cost, but when they could realistically expect an answer.
And I can jump in as well. My understanding is that as part of Lisa's training with FOIP, there have been established kind of best practices for a relatively quick turnaround to acknowledge the request, followed by a response that would include either disclosing the documents or providing kind of a timeline, but all of that to take place within 30 days. There's another thing, my understanding, the documents that are required under the Municipal Governments Act to be disclosed are ones that inevitably end up on the city's website anyways. They, in large part, are documents that the city has made public as a matter of course for quite some time. And there is the ability under the legislation that if that information will become public knowledge anyways, i.e. that it will become up on the website within 60 days, that Lisa would be able to respond and basically let the person know you will have a right to access it. It's going to be up on our website within 60 days.
And in that situation, there probably wouldn't be any fees or anything involved. It's just, it's coming out
In that
before
type,
resources
in
are
that type of
spent on-
situation,
yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
yeah.
Something we would probably, it's, to go to Ian's point, it's probably something that we would normally disclose as part of our ongoing operation, normal course of business.
Thank you, Carrie. I just had a question regarding the cost again, because I thought you said that the, well, I guess I'll go to, how would Lisa give an estimate on cost? Because we won't, how would she know where to go, I guess, and length of times, and what research would need to be done, and who would be involved, and whether there would be legal costs, and whether there would be the records, like Brian said, and does the requester pay for everything? So, like the legal costs and the rest. What, like, how are we defining what they pay for and what they don't, I guess? Is that...
Yeah, so
That makes sense.
yeah, so you'll see in section 11 of the draft bylaw, which is on page 7, deals specifically with fees. And the regulations allow for those fees to be set for, it says, locating, retrieving, producing the information, preparing it for disclosure, supervising the examination of information. So part of it is some people might want to come to City Hall and just look at the records rather than get a PDF or something like that.
Okay.
But if we needed a staff member to be there with them at that time, then there would be a certain cost for that.
For that, too. Okay.
And then, yeah, providing the information. So
Okay.
the short answer in some ways is that we'll get better as time goes on, I
Well, for
expect,
sure.
you know,
Yeah.
in terms of the estimating of costs and things like that. And in no case, even if Lisa were to, for example, estimate something and the cost ended up being lower, it was actually a easier job to compile the information, then the person wouldn't pay more than the actual cost.
And my concern was that it might be more. Like if, you know, there might be an estimate of $500, but then the actual cost could be $1,000. So where are we then? When, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was kind of, I was thinking more that the cost might be greater than,
Right. And
anyway, yeah.
Is that
Thank you.
part, I mean, is that similar to what the province has? Like that, sorry, is that part of?
My understanding is that the discretion under the municipal bylaw is a little bit broader than under the regulations under FOIP. So the bylaw has been drafted in accordance with the regulations under the Municipal Government Act. But my understanding is that from the Freedom of Information Act itself, it's a much lower cost recovery allowable.
Anybody else have any more questions?
I'm just thinking back recently in the news, I think there was a FOIP request to the province, which turned out being, the fees end up being waived at some point of that process. So I'm wondering if you suspect that to cause any ripple effect down the road, where I'm all for freedom of information, it's great, but we realize that there's a significant cost coming forward to the city and the province, to whoever. I'm just wondering how that's all going to play out when you see provincial governments waiving the fees on certain, certain FOIP requests, and then us as a municipality, how that's all going to play out.
I can confirm that the regulations at least provide for that as a possibility, and that the bylaw could on that basis be amended to include language to say that the city could make an executive decision to waive those fees. I don't believe it's in there right now, and my understanding is that decision was taken on the basis that it is a very large cost for some of these things, but that, again, that would be open to council to make that decision and to make an amendment between first and second reading if desired.
Excellent. Okay. Did you want to go on to the next?
Sure.
Anybody else have any more questions? We'll go on to
The next one before we do the
next one,
resolutions?
and then we'll do the resolutions
Okay.
both at the end.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next bylaw is bylaw number CS-30, the Records Retention Bylaw. Short description, a bylaw to provide for the retention and disposal of records for the city of Summerside. Once again, the regulations published with respect to the Records Retention Bylaw were very prescriptive in the sense that the regulations are drafted to essentially say the bylaw shall provide, and the schedule itself was included in the regulations. So it was more or less a copy and paste into our bylaw. The bylaw provides that the schedule can be amended by simple resolution of council, but that is really only if the province amends the regulations. It just makes it a little bit easier for us to get the schedule to the bylaw back in accordance with the provincial regulations, and not really to be seen as kind of a free-for-all in terms of setting our own schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to add? You're good? Everybody good? Any questions on that part? Okay. So we'll go right into the resolution. Resolution COS 20-002. It's moved by myself. It's seconded by Councillor Justin Duran. Whereas the City of Summerside Bylaw CS-29 Access to Information and Protection of Personal Information Bylaw was presented at the monthly meeting on January 20, 2020 for a first reading. Be it resolved that the City of Summerside Bylaw CS-29 Access to Information and Protection of Personal Information Bylaw be hereby declared read a first time and referred back to committee for review and recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Adams and seconded by whom? Sorry. Councillor Drawn. Any questions? I'm just wondering, this is only the first reading, but when it's eventually passed, it's effective when? When it's passed, or is it retroactive for this council or this year? Or?
So it's the way it's drafted right now, Your Worship, is that it would be effective on approval and adoption by council. The ministerial order requires it to be in effect by the 28th of February of this year. And I think I get a sense of your question is also referring to the length of application.
Right.
The section under the Municipal Government Act says that it applies to records that are created or in control of the city as of when that section comes into force. So my understanding is that would be on the 28th of February.
Okay, they would have gone with the leap year had they known the 29 days.
But it's probably best for everyone to operate on a go-forward basis as if it's in force.
So,
Exactly.
any further discussion on the resolution? Councillor?
Just a comment.
Yeah, in there.
Thanks to Councillor McFeely, page 18 in the fee schedule, CS-29, it says in the bottom of the segment, section 1.1, external legal counsel would be the actual cost. So I'm assuming that means anybody applying, they have to pay that actual cost.
As the schedule is drafted currently, that's correct, yes.
Thank you.
No more questions. We'll go into the next
All in
resolution.
favor say aye. I guess we didn't vote on it yet, I don't think. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried. Unanimously. Thank you very much. Oh, you have another one?
The next one, yeah, we have this, just the second one you spoke on. Resolution COS 20-003. Whereas the City of Summerside Bylaw CS-30 Records Retention Bylaw was presented at the monthly meeting on January 20, 2020 for a first reading. Be it resolved that the City of Summerside Bylaw CS-30 Records Retention Bylaw be hereby declared read a first time and be referred back to committee for review and recommendation. That was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Justin Duran.
Councillor Justin Duran. Okay, moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Duran. You've all heard the resolution. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay? Carried. So the next reading will be at the next monthly meeting, or will it, the next monthly meeting in February?
So February 20th?
18th. It's Tuesday because Monday's a holiday.
Islander Day. Okay. Thank you. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had a question for Ian, actually through the magic of YouTube. A question actually that somebody asked me, and it's actually a pretty good question. If a FOIP request is denied, do people get a chance to appeal it, either provincially or?
Yeah, it's my understanding that there is an opportunity to appeal. So again, this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but whenever a request is denied, it's incumbent upon the coordinator, who would be Lisa, to provide a reason. So to provide a specific authority for why the request has been denied. There's also the possibility of redacting certain records such that the balance of a record could be disclosed, but certain pieces could be redacted out. So I guess, yeah, the short answer is yes, there is an opportunity to appeal those decisions.
Just to follow up on that then, if it's denied by whom, number one, and who would you appeal it to?
So that's a good question. So there's it's an interesting interplay right now going on between the provincial FOIP legislation and then the Municipal Government Act and the requirements. So the bylaw sets out an appeal process whereby the council would appoint an adjudicator, an independent third party, to look at such things. And it's my understanding that some people have contacted the Privacy Commissioner's office directly. It's my understanding that they're trying to take a collaborative approach to coordinate. I don't know off the top of my head exactly how it would work in every situation, but my understanding is that the bylaw provides for a process, and also sometimes individuals have gone to the Privacy Commissioner directly who might take carriage of the matter or might inform the individual to reach back out to the city.
So is that the same organization? Would the appeal go before the person or the people who denied it?
No. So
Okay.
it would have to be an independent third party. It's which starts at.
So that's another independent third party. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Your Worship. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Did we vote on it yet, or are we still asking questions?
No, we voted. We're good.
Okay, right. Right. Justin got us
Thank you,
going there with
Ian.
the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
You still have something further, Councillor Adams? Pardon? You finished with your committee? Good. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here and for your presentation. Have a good rest of the day. Okay, we'll continue on with financial services. Deputy Mayor McColeman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to acknowledge that this evening's financial report has been prepared by our interim Chief Financial Officer, Kirsten Dunsford. And good evening to all of you colleagues on City Council and the residents who may be viewing from the City of Summerside. My report, which is close to last month, it does consist of an update on our preliminary financial results as of the end of December. While the city is showing a shortfall in the December operating results, we do not expect to be reporting a deficit at the end of our fiscal year, March 31st. We have a number of options available, as mentioned previously, to offset the additional operating and capital expenditures. One that I noted last month was the street sweeper, which were approved subsequent to the budget being adopted. In addition to these added operating and capital expenditures, we are expecting our wind energy revenue to be lower than budgeted. This is due to a couple of reasons, as earlier mentioned. We did see much lower levels of wind energy compared to the same time last year. As well, there were 2 of our wind turbines that were damaged by post-tropical storm Dorian, and were not in operation approximately a month and a half or 6 weeks. We have also incurred significant costs related to the cleanup and restoration of operations following post-tropical storm Dorian. However, we expect to recover some or most of these costs over the course of time from insurance claims and through the PEI Disaster Financial Assistance Program that is in process at this point of gathering the receipts and invoices to submit. Capital spending overall is over budget as of the end of December, but it is not necessarily attributable to any one project. $7 million has been spent on capital projects as of the end of December against a year-to-date budgeted amount of $6 million. On a final note, we have commenced our 2020-21 budget deliberations, and I believe the various departments directors are meeting with our CAO and going through budget deliberations with senior managers, and we'll be presenting a draft budget to council in mid-February. So we better get rested up. It'll probably be close to 2 weeks of very late nights. This process will take us through to mid-March when we present our proposed 2020-21 budget to our residents. And that concludes my report. And I also want to mention to members of council, in your package of information, you have also received the expenditures, the revenue and expenses as of the end of December 31st, as well as our capital expenditures in your package. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this report, and either myself or Chief Financial Officer are available to take any questions.
Any questions for the Chair of Finance? I do not see any question. Lights on.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. We'll continue on with Tech Services. Councillor Drown, the floor is yours again, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. The construction season for 2019 has come to an end. Staff are in the process of preparing budgets for the 2020 capital projects. Staff are in the preliminary stages of designing and preparing some tenders for next season. Staff continues to review and assist the public with pending developments and building permits to be issued for this year. A few building permits were issued for the month of December. They mainly had to deal with repairs and renovations to demolished or fire damaged buildings. The total value of building permits issued for 2019 was $38.6 million. A good portion of those permits were represented in new residential dwellings, $14.5 million in apartments, $4.7 million in new semi-detached, and $4.3 million in new single-family. Another $10.7 million were issued in additions for commercial and institutional permits. Developers are stopping in and speaking to staff for assistance with their proposed projects for 2020. Citizens are also encouraged to ask for assistance with their projects that they may have planned for 2020 as well. And if there are any questions or not, that concludes the report for Tech Services January.
Not a question, just a comment there. You'd mentioned 2020, the building permits, but that's the calendar year, and our fiscal year is now March the 31st, so do we calculate that out at the end of the March 31st come?
I expect there will be likely a line in the report at our March council meeting that would reflect probably our own fiscal.
So there could be more, well, there will be more than that. It'll be over the 40 million by March 31st.
Yeah, but and I think this total is from January to January, so even that total has 3 extra months on it. So
I know we had a change over from the calendar year to the government's fiscal year, March the 31st. So I guess I'm just wondering, in-house in our system, will we be changing everything over from March 31st to March 31st sort of thing, or April 1st? I'm just thinking out loud here, but it doesn't make any difference what we know.
That's a good question for every department, really, that has any kind of numbers in their report. So, but I can certainly check on that for Tech Services. Yep.
Councillor Campbell, the floor is yours, sir.
My favorite question.
Pope?
We were given 5 plans on the Pope Road Extension project, and we selected 2 of them. I wonder, will the engineering firm have the pricing done on that for our budgets meetings in the next couple of weeks?
I haven't spoken to Director Aaron on it since shortly after that presentation, but the feeling I got then, and I think the answer that he gave to everyone is that there would definitely be something to present for the budget in February when we start talking about it.
Thank you. Any further questions for the chair? Councillor or Deputy Mayor McCollum?
I'm just also wondering too, I think, just kind of clarification too, when anything is before that process or whatnot, we have to wait until it becomes public when that is the decision made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can't really say until that's decided.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, nothing further?
Okay.
Do you have anything further to add at this point?
I do not, Your Worship. That's everything for January 20th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll continue on with economic development. Councillor McPheely, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. In a brief report tonight, thank you to Director Mike Tuska for the report, and certainly the big news from the economic development perspective is the latest mega project that was announced last week, Your Worship. I know all of council except me was there. I think I was out of province, so unfortunately couldn't be there. But certainly the $68 million project in Summerside and working with Samsung. SRE is the next step along the innovation journey, phase 2 of our long-term partnership.
Your co-chair stood in for you, and he did.
He did very well, I understand.
Councillor Durand.
Thank Councillor Durand for that. Probably did a whole lot better than the chair would have did, so that's great.
We didn't give him much notice, but
Sometimes that's best, eh?
Yeah.
So what is, and questions around the community around the project. I know there was lots of publicity around it last week, so I'm not going to repeat that. But certainly there have been questions around the community about the project and trying to sort of get it into the layman's terms and what the benefits are. And but basically it's 61,000 solar panels, and it's predicted to generate 21 megawatts of solar energy and a 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt per hour utility scale. Most of us people would understand that, but certainly the engineers understand it. The project is funded through a collaborative model under the new Infrastructure Canada Infrastructure Plan, as well as the private sector funding with Samsung's partnership. So some of the facts about Sunbank and its vision. It's around enhancing stability, security, reliability, and resiliency of supply, increased level of renewable energy generated from local sources, reinforce independence from electricity imports, increase flexibility in infrastructure for future needs, enhance local knowledge and skills and advanced technology deployment and operations, establish the city's energy backbone for smarter innovation long-term, reduce greenhouse gas emissions attributed to the city's footprint, and I think at the end of the day we'll end up producing about 62% of our energy in this city through green sources. So that's very significant, and certainly a tremendous threshold compared to municipalities across the country. So I think what people don't understand is that the purchase rate for electricity through this is that we presently purchase from New Brunswick. We don't anticipate any decrease in costs from electricity on the expense side. So people are saying, well, it's going to affect my rates, that type of thing. My rate's going to be lower. Our cost of production will be the same, basically. So getting into some of Councillor Campbell's area here, so I won't get into that too far. So I want to talk just very briefly about the Summerside and Samsung partnership that's been developed over the last 2.5 years. Tremendous partnership, and again, this is phase 2. Phase 1 was the CUP project. Building on the success of that, we've now moved into phase 2, and we'll have a tremendous opportunity to move forward with Samsung going forward. So won't belabor the project. Your Worship, I think, was well publicized last week, but I do want to express our thanks to Minister McKenna and MP Morrissey and Province of PEI, Premier King and Minister Myers for the tremendous support in moving this forward. I certainly want to acknowledge the work of several staff people over the last 2.5 years, led by Mike Tutuska and Greg Goody from the electric department, on the technical side, to pull this thing together and make it happen. And I know they're kind of the unsung heroes in the background on this, but they're the ones that really do the heavy lifting and the grunt work to get these things done. So I want to thank them for that and congratulate them on getting this thing across the finish line. So with that, Your Worship, that's the Economic Development Report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McFeely. Any questions for the chair? Okay, we'll continue on. I believe we have the police service, fire service, and emergency planning chair, Councillor Ramsey. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, Your Worship and co-councillors, media, and YouTube viewers. First of all, I'd like to welcome our Chief Administrative Officer, Rob Philpott, and our Acting Chief Financial Officer, Kristen Dunsford, on their very first council meeting in their new positions. Congratulations, guys. I just wanted to let that be known. And I want to let the city of Summerside know that they're in good hands here. Anyway, so I'm going to move into the police report. It was submitted by Chief Dave Poirier, and it's for the month of December. During December, Summerside Police Services members took part in 2 programs. The first one, titled Cops for Christmas, involved several members volunteering at the credit union place trying to fill the police van with toys and sporting equipment. It was a very successful event, with the fruits of their labor turned over to local charities for distribution to the less fortunate. And the second event was titled Cop Shops with Kids, involved several members taking 6 children shopping to buy gifts for their siblings and their parents. And donations in food was supplied by local businesses. Again, a very successful event. And I know one of those suppliers was Robert Bland from Michael's Pizza. And Robert just seems to supply all sorts of folks with pizza, and I just want to let that be known. He's certainly a great businessman in Summerside, and he contributes lots. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Training and service enhancement. Several members certified in the use of force training, and more members were recertified in domestic violence prevention training. One member volunteered at a charity concert at the College of Piping. One member volunteered with the Summerside Pathfinders fundraising initiative, and several members volunteered with the Salvation Army Kettle Drive. Summerside Police assisted Kensington Police with their annual Christmas parade, and several members assisted in delivering food hampers to the less fortunate. And members attended the National Day of Remembrance service at the local church. For December 2019 and all totals for 2019, here are the statistics for that. Calls for service were 515, but the total for 2019 were 7,191. Traffic accidents were 28. Total for the year were 306. Reported crimes of assaults and threats, 21, but the total for the year was 278. Theft reports were 33. Total for 2019 were 98. Provincial traffic offenses were 52, and the total for 2019 were 1,317. Break and enter reports, businesses and residential, were 11. Total for the year were 85, and drug enforcement charges were 7, and total for the year was 95. Any questions can be directed to Chief Poirier on this report. So that concludes that part of my police report. The other bit of information that I have for folks is on the Three Oaks police officer, Constable Brett Montgomery. This report was submitted by Sergeant Jason Black here. So also for the month of December, Constable Montgomery created 4 investigative files at Three Oaks. One was a request to locate a missing family member. Another was in relation to a student being harassed. 1 intoxicated youth at the school dance, and 1 investigation of threats being made to a student. Constable Montgomery also arranged for Corporal Davis to do a presentation on women in law enforcement. He is in the process of starting a bursary on behalf of CUPE 1174 Summerside Police. He has arranged for Summerside Police members to attend TOSH during the noon hour to help with traffic enforcement. He helps patrol the school for students vaping on premises. He's met with student wellness teams to discuss their role. I believe he's met with Councillor Snow, and he was pretty excited to do that, to find out what your team could contribute to the process of just keeping things rolling. He arranged a presentation for phys ed classes on drugs, vaping, and wellness, and has also started a basketball program for students who tried out but did not make the school team. So that's pretty special. He seems to be doing very well up there. Constable Montgomery also did various law presentations to classes at TOSH, and he did 3 presentations at Athena regarding online behavior and safety. Also, he went to Muscush to do the same thing. So it's nice that he's reaching out to the other schools with his skills and just helping them along. Constable Montgomery also routinely offers guidance and assistance to a growing number of students who stop by his office to discuss personal issues. So it sounds like the students are becoming more comfortable with the constable being there at the high school. And like he said, they're dropping in, and he's really enjoying his role. So that's it for police services. If anyone has any questions that I can answer.
Not a question, Councillor Ramsey, just a statement. As you mentioned, Corporal Montgomery, and as I now working in all the schools in Summerside with the student wellbeing teams, have started to work closely with Constable Montgomery. And as a councillor and looking after the city, I think it's important just to note the importance of that role and the effect that it has on that school and the other schools surrounding. I think if you spoke to the school principal, staff, and admin at other schools around, say SIS, I think everybody's benefiting from it. And there's a lot of work maybe going on that you don't see or you can't really measure by a number. That's very important to the youth in our city, because there's a lot of struggles out there today. So
Yes.
I just want to commend him for his work, because I know how hard he has been working. So.
Thank you, Councillor. And I did get a lengthy report. This is just sort of a condensed reading. But he talked about going over to SIS, because those kids, you know, the grade 9 class will be going into Three Oaks next year. So he's making himself familiar there, and his presence being known, that, you know, and they're getting to know him. And anyway, it's great. Councillor McFeely?
Again, not really a question, a comment about the increased presence of police around the noon hour traffic control. I had a very irate parent call me prior to Christmas about their son just about getting hit on the crosswalk there, speeding, people coming out of Three Oaks there, and after school. And I had sent an email to the CAO at that time to see if we could have an increased presence around the school, particularly around the noon hour, just before and just after the school there, because I live adjacent to the school there too, so I witness it daily. You know, there really is an issue there with what I would perceive to be speeding during those crucial times, and they're only for like a few minutes before school and a few minutes after school and around the noon hour. So I was really pleased to hear in your report that he has coordinated an increased presence in the noon hour there, because it really is a safety concern around there at noon hour. So
Sounds like he took your advice, Brian. Eh?
My advice or not, but
Well,
I'm awful pleased to see it happen.
So am I,
Yeah.
and one of the other things I guess I should say really quickly is that I spoke with Principal Jeff the other day and Constable, and they are now preparing a presentation to present to council, you know, in the next couple of months. So anyway, they're getting it ready now, so we'll be excited to hear from them on how things are going. So, yeah. Councillor McColman.
Just a small point. In your police report, when you mentioned the National Day of Remembrance, since our police officers have been doing a number of different things, our speaker at that presentation was local Summerside police officer Lorna DeWare, and just wanted to acknowledge that she did that.
She did a wonderful job, Norma. Yeah, she did a wonderful job. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Also, you might want to add to that, also Nikki that sang, she, one of the songs she sang is on the East Coast Music top. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
my
top
goodness.
song on the East Coast Music chart. So.
And what was her name, Councillor
Nikki
McColman?
Gallant.
Nikki Gallant? Okay, for anyone that wants to look her up on YouTube. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is she? Yeah. Councillor Duran?
Thanks. Yeah, just a comment from me as well. I guess I didn't realize that your report would have the Three Oaks calls and statistics broken down, and it was really, I really appreciated seeing that, just for the people out there that are kind of wondering what that position is doing at Three Oaks. It was nice to hear exactly what he's doing, and that we're definitely getting a good bang for the buck, and it's, yeah, just thanks for including that, and I thanks to Sergeant Black here as well, and Constable Montgomery, and hope we get to hear next month about everything that happened in January.
You're going to hear every month.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor Duran, and I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, Three Oaks is a wonderful high school, and I think, you know, Summerside, the city of Summerside needs to realize that. It's just your typical high school with some problems, and I'm really impressed with this council for voting to put Constable Montgomery in there, because I think he's doing an excellent job. Thank you. So if there's no more questions, that's it for police report. Then I'll go right into my fire report. And this was submitted by Ken Culleton. And so there were 24 calls for assistance during the month of December. There were 9 training opportunities for the month, totaling 21 hours with our firemen. And I'm going to just go over a few things, because this is something that we didn't used to do for the all the events that the firemen do attend, and you know, so I'd like to kind of commend them on that. So Summerside firefighters would like to thank Musqueam and Wellington Fire Department for their invitation to their respective Christmas banquets. So it's nice to see that they're all kind of intermingling there. It's always a treat to entertain groups of kindergarten children, but especially during the holiday season. And thank you for paying a visit. So a lot of the kindergarten children were over and had treats from the firemen. And Chief Enman worked with emergency measures and the Prince County Hospital on an evacuation plan in the event of an emergency. Chief Enman and Acting Deputy Chief Moe spent 3 days in Winnipeg verifying and confirming all the specs of the new fire engine being built for Summerside. And I want Summerside residents to know that that trip is paid for by the company that we're buying the vehicle from. That's not something that Summerside residents are, So I just wanted to let that be known, because I think they're even going to take one more trip closer to that truck being completed. And anyway, so that's not on us. And there was opening for 2 deputies, and they were hired. And I'm going to read their names. Blanchard, Kenny Blanchard was hired as Deputy Fire Chief, and Clay Mose, and I know, Carrie, you had already mentioned that, but being Fire Chair, I thought I should add that in and congratulate them. That's right, yeah, that's right. And Clay is in Summerside, yeah. And Summerside firefighters answered a mutual aid call to Tyne Valley Fire Department in the recent loss of their community rink. And I just want to, you know, send our condolences to everybody in Tyne Valley, but to also recognize our fire department and the help that they gave. Anyway, and congratulations to Safety Officer Wally McCausland, who was recently awarded the 2019 Firefighter of the Year at the Christmas Awards banquet. So that is my my report on fire. So if there's anything else that
I would just like to also congratulate Wally McCausland. Wally was a good friend of mine all through high school, and I still consider him to be a good friend, and I know how serious he takes the role of being a firefighter here in the city and wanting to work hard for the city of Summerside. So I just want to congratulate him on that. It was a real good choice.
he keeps them all safe over there. He's our safety officer, yeah. So just one more thing. I want to give everyone an update on the fire hall meeting that we had. Fire Services Committee met last week to discuss the next steps in the process of either renovating or replacing the fire hall. We will have further information to share with council and the community shortly, and we look forward to providing a more detailed update in the near future. So we did meet already, and we're getting things in order. So it's not going to be set aside, no. And anyway, Carrie.
Who's on the committee?
So on the committee is CAO Rob, for now. This is where we are right now. CAO Rob, myself, Ron Enman, and Deputy CAO Gordon, and was that it?
That's before the committee set up.
I'm sorry. There was just the four of us in that first meeting, yes. So yeah, that's before, yeah. We're just getting things sort of lined up, and then we're going to go from there. Whether we have a resident on our committee, or whether we're just going to have meetings where we bring everything forward, maybe at our, we all do these forums, so maybe we could, when we're having a forum, if Norma's having a forum, I could go in, or, you know, or CAO could come in and we could answer questions in the community to people that might have, you know, be looking for answers and whatever. Yeah, so we're just trying to still figure out how that's going to look, but it's just in the very beginning stages, so yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you. Oh.
Work that you carry out, I'm not sure if you had anything to add to that or not, but I just wanted to comment, this past week I was in touch with my good friend, the Mayor of St. John's, Mayor Breen.
Yes.
And also the Mayor of Mount Pearl, Mayor Aker. I believe Mount Pearl had the most snow of any place in St. John's, and Mr. Breen, he's dealing with a difficult situation, you know, a state of an emergency, and I know they'll handle it well over there, and the people are very strong. They'll get through this. But we probably all saw some video of the terrible situation, and so anyway, we passed on best wishes on behalf of the city, and I know they'll deal with it to the best of their ability and get through it.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing that up, because I had so many papers and so many things to say tonight that I did have a report on emergency measures, and our past CAO, Bob Ashley, and I met with our new CAO, Rob Philpott, to bring him up to date on our emergency measures plan. We have a meeting planned next week with Mayor Stewart and Deputy Mayor Norma McColman, CAO Rob Philpott, and myself, and to continue to work on our emergency plan, and just wanting everyone to know that you're in good hands. Things are in order, but we continue to work on it. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor Renz.
Could I just mention this, Your Worship? Just since you are the chair with the emergency planning, we are sending for another supply of our emergency preparedness guide, and they will be in our pamphlet section in the lobby. A lot of them were picked up by residents, but we just want to let our residents know that once we receive them, they will be on display, and they certainly can pick them up, because that will tie in with everything that's unfolding. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll call upon the Chair of Community Services, Councillor Corey Snow.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to thank Director J.P. DeRoger, who compiled this report. December was here and gone in the hustle and bustle of the holiday season. Commemorative 5-day flex passes for the World Under-17 Hockey Challenge went on sale just in time for the holidays. The Premier Hockey Tournament will come to PEI in November and bring the world's best young hockey talent right here to Summerside and also Charlottetown, as we're co-hosting with them. I was lucky enough to be out in Medicine Hat as they finished up their World Under 17 and sort of passing the torch on to us, and I can honestly tell you it really is some of the best hockey you're going to see and some really good young hockey talent. Active Winter was launched for the winter season. That offers residents a variety of outdoor winter activities, including ice skating, fat biking, snowshoeing, tobogganing, and more. Crews monitor and prepare these outdoor activities on a daily basis and are available to the public throughout the winter. Today, I seen a post online there. By the afternoon today, the rink up at Queen Elizabeth Park was ready for skating again. So the fellows in the Community Services Department are out there working hard to make sure everything's ready to go after we receive some snow and stuff. 5 Days of Christmas returned for the first week of December that offered customers various promotions and savings during the 5-day span. Each day featured new promotions within Credit Union Place. The Aquatic Center and bowling lanes had a busy month as Toonie Days were offered from December 13th to the 27th, 2019. So that's all the days that the kids were off school in that time span. So they can go and use their facility for $2, which is a really good price. So New Year's Eve festivities took place on December 31st at Credit Union Place that offered residents an evening packed with family fun. Everything from inflatables, face painters, entertainment, balloon art, bowling, swimming, a free caps game, and much more. Despite the conditions, over 3,000 people braved the weather and enjoyed the festivities. Summerside Western Capitals had a quiet month at home, going 2-1 while maintaining top spot in the East Link North Division and continuing to be ranked nationally in the Canadian Junior Hockey League top 10. The rankings came out today and they've jumped from 8th to 4th. So I could be wrong, but I think that's maybe the highest they've been rated, maybe in the history of the Caps. It's pretty good ranking. So we look forward to continuing to move up those rankings. Also, young Carson McKinnon, who was a Summerside native, just recently returned home from the Q. He's off to a pretty hot start, so he likes the home cooking, obviously. The Veterans Convention Center was busy during the month of December with 32 bookings throughout the month, which is up 13 from last year. The Parks and Green Spaces Division continues to focus on walkways, facility repairs at Credit Union Place, and maintaining and preparing the outdoor ice surfaces for trails for active winter. That is my report, Your Worship. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. You're right, it's a busy place, and over the weekend, all of the tournaments from around the Maritimes and people visiting, and our junior team rated so high, and I had a good conversation on the weekend. Came on to the game with Gerard Turkgaland, and he's home for a couple of days, and he's in good spirits. He knows, and we know, he'll land on his feet and be a great asset to another team. And but anyway, everybody's trying to figure out why they did what they did. You know, a week before the All-Star game, chosen the All-Star coach a week before. But anyway, like Gerard said, again, I saw him today, and he said, you know, that's the hockey business, and but he'll bounce back, and we know he's a great person and a great resident and a great ambassador and a great coach. I mean, he took our team to the Nationals and won it.
Yep.
Anyway, we wish him all the best.
And one of the things, Your Worship, that he needs to know, I'm sure he does know, from all of the residents, we're very proud of him, and he's Summerside's son, so we think very highly of him.
It's always nice to see him home. It's just unfortunate we're seeing him home right now, but there's no doubt that he's going to land on his feet relatively quickly.
Well, I need to share this because one of the things he brought home for me was a signed jersey. A signed jersey for a fundraiser that we're hoping to do for Tyne Valley Rink. Well, we planned this about 10 days ago, and that was a wonderful plan. I'm not sure what to do with the jersey now. When people want to buy tickets, I'm going to have the jersey. And anyway, that's funny. But really, the other thing I wanted to say was I just, you know, we live in a wonderful little city here. When, you know, the kids are off school and the parents can take $2 and take their kids down to Credit Union Place to have a fun day and do any event, you know, we're pretty fortunate. We live in a great spot, and I just wanted to bring that to people's attention because I think it's wonderful.
to get as many people into that facility and to do it as cheap as possible. I think that's the plan of community services and council as a whole.
Yeah.
We want that facility utilized, so days like that are
It's wonderful.
great,
Yeah, thank
Sure.
you. Thanks, Court.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Councilor McDougall?
Hey, I'm on?
I just thought your light was on to ask a question.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Batter up,
Are we
batter
done?
up.
Are we done?
Oh, no, you're not.
I thought you had a question.
I'm sorry, no, I don't have a question.
Well, Councillor Duran does.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize you stood up.
Councillor Duran, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to comment on one of the active winter activities. It was the moonlight snowshoeing.
Yes, yeah.
Kendra and I went, I think it was last weekend.
Yeah.
And we were a little late arriving, so we were kind of fumbling with our snowshoes in the parking lot, and most of the group had gone on. There must have been 100 people there, and it was dark. And so by the time we got our snowshoes on, most of the group, like I said, was ahead of us, and we didn't realize that the whole group had taken one of the kind of the off trails, and they were back with their hot chocolate and their music probably within half an hour. We came out and we were on Water Street because we didn't see that everybody.
You got lost.
Anyway, we got some great exercise. My thighs are still burning.
I was wondering who was making all the noise in my backyard.
No coyotes.
Sounds like you didn't have
But-
hot chocolate, might have something else.
There was a little bit of hot chocolate left.
But what Councillor Duran is not saying is he was scared, so my husband Murray and I had to go and help him and Kendra take them out from the dark. They were scared of the dark.
I deny nothing. Yes, yeah, we went with my mother and sister. We were too fast for them.
It looks like that's all the questions, Your Worship, so.
Yeah, I think Councillor Ron just said he scared the coyotes away.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Snow, for your report. We'll continue on. I believe Councillor McDougall is ready.
Are you sure?
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I, just to add to that Turk story, I'm pretty sure that that'll come back to haunt them. I can see that happening.
I hope it does.
Yeah, I do have a report here that was prepared by Councillor Greg Goody, Director Greg Goody. Staff assisted with the installation and the takedown of the holiday street lights for downtown area. New well field has ran on generator power many times during last month, and that was to allow for the electrical infrastructure construction along Putter's Lane. That's a new subdivision out by the golf course. And tree trimming was performed in the rights of way where branches were hanging low, hitting trucks, and that doesn't sound right. We're hanging low, hitting trucks. Don't do that to me.
Where was the sweet stripper?
No, they were safe that one day. Anyway, staff has assisted the community services in the placement of age-friendly benches in 8 areas of the city. New rest and relaxation areas are identified by the age-friendly committee. And in tracking the new operation costs of the wastewater treatment plant for the treating of the wastewater and the making of fertilizer costs for this part of the process reduced since August 2019 by 10% since the installation of the new centrifuge system. And the following snow removal efforts were completed for the month. This was last month, and I imagine we can add a few on to them for just recently. So there was 4 road plowing events, and this numbers are for December, right? So, and 4 sidewalk plowing events, 12 road salting events, 10 sidewalk salting events, and 1 downtown clearing. So you can almost add half of that again, I'm sure. The water samples that were taken were clear of bacteria. The chlorination samples were all within parameters. And we had 3 water main breaks during the month, 1 on Curran, 1 on Phillips, and 1 on Notre Dame Street. Basically, 1 water sewer lateral was repaired, and some were videoed, 9 sewer callouts, and we do service the plant for the outlying community for the septic, and it was 51,290 gallons of septic received. So that is the report for Municipal Works. If there's any questions?
Thank you. Councillor Wren, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to talk about those 8 benches, age-friendly, did that. Thank you for that, age-friendly. And, but I wanted to also say thank you to Sharon McCausland at Shoppers Drug Mart, because I received a phone call or an email from some elderly people that do some shopping up that way, and they get the bus, they get the transit, and when they're waiting for the bus, they had nowhere to wait. And I contacted Sharon at Shoppers Drug Mart and let her know that. And she said, Barb, I'll do what I can. Anyway, within 6 weeks, she calls me back and she says, guess what? We have a bench. So they put a bench out in front of Shoppers Drug Mart for those ladies. And I just wanted to really commend Sharon with her work on that. And yeah, so thanks.
I want to start by saying I'm not in no way speaking ill of our workers, because I know how hard they work. But just today, for example, I was out around, and I think we had received a report from Greg updating us on the plowing efforts that had started today. And something just sort of tweaked my mind, and we'll bring it up in committee later. But for example, say today there was snow clearing efforts done, and Credit Union Place was cleared. Right. But then I was reading in the report that the secondary parking lots, like the overflow, were done. But then as I was going around the city, I noticed some other areas weren't touched yet. So I don't know. Obviously, this is a chat to have with Greg. Yeah. But I'm mentioning it to you as chair, right, just as a sort of question and sort of bring forward to Greg on how we disperse those, because it's a question I often get asked, like how come my sidewalk's not done yet, but the parking lot is. So just put you on notice, I guess.
No, that's fine.
And I know we're having some talks coming up on delivery of service and our expectations and the community's expectations, but just as questions are definitely coming into all councillors, that it's important that the citizens know we're hearing them and that we are trying to get answers for them. But, yeah.
We do have a policy, and we review it quite often, and we're going to be doing it again. My understanding, the crews that are doing the parking lots are entirely separate from the ones that are doing the sidewalks. My biggest beef was, most people walk on our boardwalk, and it's the last thing to be plowed. But we need to do the sidewalks first, right? So, and people understand that. But no, I just wanted to give them a shout out, like we all do. We're nowhere close to Newfoundland, but there is a policy there, and a lot of people say, well, why do you put salt down, then you don't, well, yes, well, if we don't do that, we're going to be driving through potholes with that deep, so, but I know it's on the agenda to have a discussion around the policy again, and we're very open to that, so.
Thank you.
Good.
I believe
I
Councillor
wanted
Adams
to add to that,
and
after the weather last week, I had spoke with Director Gregg, because my concern was when the children were walking to school, the ones around the school weren't done. So he was very willing to look at maybe a reversal in the ones that are done, and just the order in which they are done. I know there is a reason it's done the way it is. And I think we also have to remember that we can consult, like our local school board, to see, two school boards to see if school's going to be delayed or canceled too, right? So then that would help in making decisions on when and where to start. So.
Thank you. I believe our CAO had a comment or question.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And Councillor McDougall, just to follow up on Councillor Snow's point, and also the point that was raised by Councillor Adams, that certainly we will take a look at the sequencing. I think that's a discussion that we'll certainly have during the budget process. Just insofar as yesterday and today are concerned, sidewalks, as we understand, were completed today. They're going to complete the salting by tomorrow. I realize that may not work totally with residents' expectations, and I certainly appreciate that. But again, it is a topic for ongoing discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? If not, I just have a couple of comments.
The floor is yours.
First of all, I want to welcome and congratulate our new CAO, Rob Philpott. It's a real pleasure to have you aboard, Rob, and I look forward to working with you, as well as our acting Director of Finance, Kristen. Congratulations, and I know you do a fine job. A few weeks ago, we don't have to remind anybody, but there was a severe fire in Tyne Valley, which they lost their community center. I remember when that was built. It was a long time ago when the earth was green. But that's my home, is Tyne Valley, and I couldn't believe it when that burnt. And it's where I got my first big break. It was my nose, but that was about it. And it wasn't in a hockey game, it was watching one. But it's just terrible that that has devastated that community, because it's called the Tyne Valley Community Sports Center for a reason, because it does service the whole community, and that it's a big community there that look at that. They're going after Hockeyville. They're going to build a new facility, and I have no doubt that it will be a very nice facility. And they have a great team together right now. They're going for the Hockeyville title, and I received a message from them over the weekend, and I asked them to put it in an email, and they did, and I forwarded it on to the mayor. It's basically to assist them with fundraising, not necessarily fundraising, but awareness for Hockeyville, and it's to tie in with the Caps and that type of thing. So I got them to put everything in the email. We forwarded it to the mayor, and I'll forward that to all councillors later on this evening so you can see it. But the mayor and myself will probably be chatting with their CAO and JP and the CAPS organization to see if we can come together and do something for them. So
During one of the Caps games.
yeah, it's to
Great
do
opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and it's a win-win for everybody. So some great ideas in it. And lastly, I just wanted to go back to last week's announcement. You know, when I started on council, our first term here, in in our first term here, we had a run at trying to take over our electric utility, and I've always been a big supporter of that electric utility, and so because it makes our city, it separates our city from the rest, and we're so fortunate with this announcement last week. It just put the icing on the cake for this city. Our city always punched above its weight, but when we made that announcement, we really raised a lot of eyebrows, and I've had an awful lot of comments from the public that you would never expect, and it's just great, and I'm so proud of it, and thank you for all the people that are involved, not the council, but our right from our CAO, former CAOs, former people that were involved in it. It just didn't happen this week. It was because of a lot of work, and I see a fellow down there that has been a main cog in it, Mike Tethuska, and we thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. I did have a good conversation, as I'd mentioned before, with the Mayor of Tyne Valley, Mayor Noy, and we look forward to helping him out and their community as best we can in a number of ways. I know there's other things planned for come spring, a major music show, concert, and but that's a good idea if they want to tie in something with the Western Capitals, and they get fans from east to west and help them with their fundraiser. So thank you very much. I had made a note here, or got reminded to our former Director of Finance, excuse me, Malcolm Miller. He lost his mother just recently, passed away, so we pass on condolences to Malcolm and his family. Hazel Miller was her name. And also a longtime businessman in downtown Summerside here, Wayne Poirier, passed away too young. So we pass on condolences as well to Wayne. And we've got another report, I believe. Sorry?
Your Worship, I just wanted to pass on condolences to the family of Jackie Newcomb. Jackie Newcomb was worked at Kelly's Flower Shop for years and years downtown, and everybody knew Jackie. He's a great family friend, and there's a guy that never had an enemy, so just wanted to pass on condolences.
Thank you. And while we're on that, I just got word that my wife's first cousin passed away, Joanne Thomas. She passed away suddenly at Prince County Hospital, and her husband, Jackie Thomas, just passed away a short time ago as well. So anyway, we pass on condolences to the family. And her brother works for the flag department at the electrical, Stuart Razovit. So we pass on condolences. So we'll continue on. Councillor Campbell, how's the wind with the windmills?
Thank you, Your Worship. A large Christmas tree was constructed on top of the power plant smokestack and was well received within the community. Everyone remember that was a great idea. It is planned to be erected each December for the next 10 years. And I guess I should also thank the department for the great job they do every year with the Christmas lights. Electrical infrastructure continues being installed along Putter Lane in the Mackenzie Drive subdivision. The circuit that feeds Gavin subdivision and the Pope Road area is being maintained, and I asked Greg, maintained means to be looked after and tested due to the frequency of power outages. I think, Justin, you had a few emails or things about the power outages there, so they're working and keeping an eye on that. I think a lot of it's caused by having more installation of heat pumps and stuff like that, and the demand is so large. Anyway, we apologize for any inconveniences. This month's operation vacated the 94 Ottawa Street building, as renovation to the building will start in January, and they have already started. The public is reminded that if contact is needed for the electric utility operations, at the new main office is on 99 Harvard Street. And all meter changes have been completed for 2019. A total of 1,500 meters were changed in 2019. That is 20% of our meters. We had 11 new electric customers energized this month, 4 electrical service upgrades, 6 customer outage events this month, 1 citywide on December 20th for substation preparation for the winter loading and the final repairs. Generation run hours were 8.5, and the wind wasn't great, 38.2 for our electricity. Of our electricity came from the wind in December. I guess I should mention also that on January 14th, announcement of our new solar and battery project. I just marked down 4 little things that's kind of neat. The greenhouse gas emissions for Summerside Electric will be reduced to half of our neighboring provinces. So we're going to be the green province, I guess. Expected to be completed by May 2022. So people are asking about electrical rates and stuff like that. We got a long way to go yet. Reuse of the land, I thought that was great too, and that we're going to make use of that well field out in St. Helens. It's be great. And the battery initiative was part of, if anyone wants questions on it, the capacity resource plan that we got copies of here not very long ago, the Dunskin report. And I have a resolution, Your Worship.
Thank you. Just before the resolution, any questions for the Chair of Electrical?
Not so much question, but just to tie in with the comments about the star at the utility. A lot of people made very, very positive comments, and I think the department has made such a name for itself because people are asking, are they going to do other types of electrical decorations on other different assets around the city? So they've really made quite an impression on people. Great job.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add on to that. I think the electrical department, even they were all at the announcement for the solar announcement, and that was nice to see them all there and seeing everybody buy into it and being included into it, because they'll have, I'm sure, a big learning curve with that as well. And that Christmas tree, it was, and I've heard the same, and you could even see it from my house, so there you go. You could see it from...
And no complaints.
No complaints. It's great.
Just speaking of that, I had a number of people ask me, is it possible, maybe the tree is down, is it? But a lot of people suggested, why can't they leave it up there year-round? Maybe change the color of the lights or something. It looked really nice. So I don't know, maybe it is down or unplugged or whatever. I never noticed the last few days, but...
I saw it just the other, I worked Friday evening when I was driving home, it was late. It was still on Friday, so I hadn't noticed it.
It'd be nice to have it, even with the white lights for the year-round. But anyway, I just thought I'd bounce that out because it was mentioned to me by a number of people.
I'll mention that to Greg, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor, you have a resolution.
Resolution COS 20-001, moved by myself, Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor McDougall. Whereas Phase 1 of the City of Summerside Solar Battery Integration Project located at Credit Union Place has been a successful undertaking in terms of significant energy saving and GHG reductions. And whereas the City of Summerside is now positioned to move forward with Phase 2 of the solar battery integration project to further its renewable footprint under the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program, that's ICIPP, and whereas several partners are working jointly towards approval in 2019, and it is 2019, I checked with Gregory, we're looking for approvals in 2000 from several sources. Therefore, be it resolved that Council endorses the solar/battery integration project Phase 2 and directs staff to apply for a low-interest loan/grant funding opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the FCM, Green Municipal Fund, GMF, and be it further resolved that the City of Summerside will commit $3,284,300 as its share towards the overall cost of the project. This bears the recommendation of Summerside City Council.
Moved by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor McDougall. You've all heard the resolution. Any questions or comments? I understand there is a large grant available through FCM, but the application process will have to go in as soon as Council approves the resolution. But the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Green Municipal Fund, they have a large pot of money that's, and I think we're ideally suited to get that grant.
That's great.
It certainly does. Any further questions or comments? If not, we call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Okay, I believe we have gotten to the end of the agenda. I see there's a couple of items for the Committee of the Whole, the Municipal Government Act. Anybody get any final comments before we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McFeely and seconded by Councillor McDougall that the meeting adjourn. Thank you very much. All in favor? Say aye. Thank you.